you may be here because you've been trying to achieve something, you've been trying to make a change in your life and you've not quite got the results that you want, or you've had that breakthrough, you know there's something in your life you want to change, but you're not quite sure how to get there. Listen to these top tips I've got to make sure that goal is a success. Hi, I'm Callie, your go-to life and mindset coach, and I'm here to support you on this crazy journey we call life. So in today's episode, I'm going to be talking you through goal setting. So when we decide to set ourselves a goal, it's usually an intention or a change that we know we want to make in our life. Now, sometimes those changes and those desires and wants can be really successful and we can achieve them really easily. But then sometimes we have something we know we want to achieve, but we don't quite get the results, or we hit so many stumbling blocks along the way of trying to achieve this goal. Now, I'm going to give you some insight into why you might be hitting those stumbling blocks, but give you key ways to how you can transform it and make sure that you're going out and getting that life that you truly want for yourself. Now, in terms of goal setting, this can be in relation to any aspect of our life, and I mention this quite a lot in the episodes anyway. So our goals can be in relation to our relationship, maybe that you want to build trust in your relationship, better communication skills, maybe you just want to go out and meet someone now, maybe you're tired of being on your own and all your friends have settled down. Maybe your goal is in relation to your career and you want to focus on your career and progress, or set up your own business perhaps. It might be in relation to your health. So it might be that you want to just be a little bit healthier. There might be a certain weight that you want to get, or maybe you want to be more toned or to eat healthily. Our goals can encompass so many things. The great thing about goal setting is it can change very much dependent on what stage of our life we're at. So for example, as we go through our 20s, we find out so much about who we are as a person, what we like, what we dislike, who we are, what our values are, so many things. We find out so much about ourselves and our purpose in life. And that can shift the way our goals are approached and the types of goals that we set for ourselves. So when it comes to goal setting, we don't have to necessarily have something completely set in stone, as in, I want this career or I want this perfect relationship. Goals can be big or small. Your goal might be that you want to increase your water intake, or get up earlier in the mornings to make most of the day, or change your morning routine. Or your goal might be to build a relationship or to change your career. So our goals can be big or small. But what a lot of us don't realize is there are so many aspects to goal setting that we need to be really mindful of to make sure these goals are successful. And this is what I'm going to talk you through in this episode. Now, as you're listening to this episode, you might already have a goal in mind, something that you know you want to achieve. You might have been trying to achieve it for a while and you're not quite seeing the results you want to see. Or it might be that you've had that breakthrough, you know that there's something you want to change in your life, but you're not quite sure where to start, or you want to tackle it head on and know exactly what to do to make it successful. So I am going to share those tips with you to make sure that whatever stage you're at with goal setting, you can ensure that this is going to be a success. Now, it might be as I talk you through these tips on goal setting that you change your goal slightly, or you might change your goal completely, and that's absolutely fine. The whole idea behind this episode is for you to understand how important this goal is to you, how achievable you feel it will be, and whether it's relevant to you in your life and where you're at in life at the moment. So there's going to be some key questions potentially running through your mind as I'm talking you through these tips. But that's good because I really want you to think about this goal in more depth. So first things first, and if you do already have that goal in mind, that's great. If you're undecided about a goal, that's absolutely fine too. You might have a goal that springs to mind, or a new intention or change or direction that you want to go in your life that you start to think about as you're listening to this episode. So that's great too. But if you are listening to this episode and you do already have that goal in mind, I want you to either think about it really clearly in your head, and I want you to phrase it. If you have a pen and paper to hand, even better, feel free to write it down so it's visualized in front of you, but it's okay if you don't. And as you're looking at that goal and you're thinking about the wording of that goal, I'm going to let you in on a little bit of an insight with goal setting. Now, one of the key things I want to tell you is our brain can't process a negative. So if you've written your goal as I don't want. So I'm going to use the example of I don't want to be unhealthy, just because it's a really nice, straightforward example to get your head around. If you have written your goal as I don't want to be unhealthy, for example, your brain can't process a negative. So the I don't want at the start of your goal, your brain isn't acknowledging that. All your brain is focusing on is the subject in question. So in this instance, unhealthy. So every time you're trying to tackle that goal or achieve that goal, all your brain is thinking is unhealthy, unhealthy. And our brain is only going to show us things in our reality, in our world around us, that align with that. So unhealthy. And we know that's not what we want to focus on, but our brain can't process the negative. So ultimately, that's what it's going to focus on. So one of the key things I want you to think about right from the get-go with goal setting is to hone in on how you're phrasing your goal. Rather than focusing on what you don't want, focus on what you do want. And you might have already written your goal like this already, which is amazing. But make sure your goal is pushing you forwards. It's not keeping you stuck in where you don't want to be. So I can easily transform the goal, I don't want to be unhealthy, to I want to be healthy. So if you know what it is that you don't want, think, well, what do I want? So it might be that your goal is focused on relationships and you might have written, I don't want to be on my own anymore. Okay. But remember, your brain isn't focusing on the don't want. It can't acknowledge that. So it's focusing on being alone. And it's going to show you a world where that is true. It's going to keep that focus on that. So instead, you might want to say something like, I want to meet someone. I want to build the confidence to go out and talk to new people. So make sure that any goal that you set for yourself is written in a positive way that's going to drive you forward and move you forward into that state that you want to be in, rather than where you don't want to be. And as you're listening to those differences in the different types of goals that you set, you might notice a bit of a mood shift as well, a bit of a mindset shift. So when you start to focus on the things you do want, you feel that you're starting to uplift yourself a little bit. And remember, energy is everything. If you lift your energy, you're more inclined to see that success and that drive forward to where you want to be. So lifting that energy means focusing on what you do want rather than what you don't want. So if you need to change the wording of your goal in any way, make sure that you do that first. Have that goal really clear in your mind so then you can move forward with the next tips I'm going to share with you. Now, next, once you've figured out what your goal is, it's written in a positive way that's going to move you forward in the direction that you want to be in, there's a question that I want you to ask yourself, and we don't always think about asking ourselves this question when it comes to goal setting because it seems quite obvious until we think about it. Do you believe that you can actually achieve this goal? So as you're thinking about the goal that you've set for yourself or that desired change that you want in your life, do you believe genuinely that you can get yourself there? In order to see success in our goal setting and that change in our life, we have to truly believe that that can happen for us. We can think of so many things that we want in our life, but if we believe we can't get ourselves there, we're going to hit those stumbling blocks constantly. So a really simple one to digest is, I want to be a millionaire. Okay, do I really believe I can get myself there at this moment in time? No. If my belief isn't there, I'm not going to be pushing myself in the direction of achieving that. So make sure that as you're setting this goal for yourself and you're really focusing in on it, do you genuinely believe that you can achieve this goal? If you can't, that's absolutely fine, but why is that the case? What roadblock are you putting in the way for yourself that's showing you that you can't be successful with this, that you can't have what you want? That's something to really focus on because it's going to give you a bit of a narrative around the story of you, what limiting beliefs you have, and then you can go back into a previous episode where I share with you top tips on how to shift those limiting beliefs. So yeah, ultimately, one of the first things you've got to do once you've got that goal or intention in mind, make sure that you can truly believe that you can achieve it. You have to believe that you can. The more you believe that you can go out and achieve it, the more likely you are to be successful with the goal. Okay, so my next tip aligns a little bit with the belief, because once you truly believe that you can achieve something, you can start to visualize that end result, what that end result looks like for you. So one of the next tips I want to share with you that's really useful is, I want you to visualize what that end result looks like. What are you going to accept as proof, as evidence that you've achieved this goal and you've been successful? Once you can start to see that end result and you know what that end result looks like, your brain knows what it's aiming for. Your brain has to have some kind of visualization as to what this end result looks like. Maybe it's to look a certain way after losing a certain amount of weight or just getting in better shape. It might be that you're nicely settled down with someone, or you're visualizing that evening with your ideal partner, or going out to bars and having that confidence to talk to people. It might be having that success in that job or career that you really, really desire. What does that end result look like for you? The more you can visualize that end result, the more your brain knows what it's aiming for. Once you visualize that end result, you're putting that belief in place that it's truly available to you. It's hard for us to visualize results of what we want if our belief isn't there. So the more you focus on the end result and you can truly visualize it, it also lifts that belief up as well, which gets you even closer to being successful with that goal or that desired life that you want. Now, another thing to consider is, how in control are you at achieving this goal? So in terms of a goal being, I want to be healthy, for example, you can be completely in control of that. You can completely control your diet, your exercise regimes, your general lifestyle choices and habits. So you're in complete control of that. No one else is going to give you that result. It's all on you, which is great. And that's the idea of a really effective goal. If you're thinking about your goal and you're thinking, well, I can only achieve it if someone else gives it to me, that's not an example of an ideal goal. And I'm going to give you some examples of why that's the case. So say, for example, you've set up your own business and your goal is to have earned a certain amount of money by the end of the first year. You aren't in control of how much money comes in. That's dependent on the client base and how many products are sold. So you're in control of the inner workings behind it in terms of the promotion of your products or services and all of those different kinds of things. But in terms of monetary value from that and what money you are getting out of your business, you aren't in complete control of that. So when you're setting that goal or intention, you need to make sure that you're the one that's in complete control of the outcome. So to give you another example, it might be that you have a certain career that you want to have, but in order to have that career, you need a certain qualification. Okay, you're in control of putting the work in, or the money and the finance in place to make sure that you are on that course and you're working towards that qualification, but achieving the qualification isn't in your control necessarily, because someone else is going to give you that qualification. But you're in control of how much effort and work you put into that course to get that end result. So in that instance, your goal would be to put in as much effort as possible to make sure that that goal is hopefully successful. But in terms of if your goal was to have a certain qualification, that's not what's in your control, because someone else has to give you that. For example, a promotion at work. Is your promotion dependent on someone else deciding whether you get the promotion or not? Or is it just dependent on, if I do X, Y, Z in my job, then I'm going to get the promotion regardless? So think about how in control you are with this goal. If you're visualizing that outcome, but you're depending on someone else giving you that outcome, shift your goal in a way that means you're the one that's in control of it. You have to be the one that's in control of your goal for it to be successful. Now, another thing to think about are the costs and consequences that come with the goal that you've decided to try and achieve. So a lot of the time, any decision that we make in life often comes with costs or consequences. It might be that other people depend on us, and so we have to be considerate of the decisions we make and how it might impact their life. So that's one example. So it might be that you've decided that you want to work towards a new course or work towards a new qualification, which is amazing. If that's the case, and it means that you've got to attend night schools alongside your job or whatever it might be, have you then got to put childcare responsibilities into place if you have children, for example? What costs and consequences are associated with the goal that you've set? Do you need a pot of money to be able to go out and achieve the goal that you've set, maybe the qualification that you want? So as you're thinking about your goal, I want you to think really carefully about any costs or any consequences that come from you achieving this goal. Sometimes goals we set are just completely dependent on ourselves. In order to be healthier, it's completely dependent on us. Doesn't matter about others around us necessarily, because the focus is completely on you. But if we're starting to change things in our lives, and a lot of the time I see this with my clients in terms of career change, and they're so panicked about trying to put things in place for their family, especially if they have children, and what it's going to mean for them in terms of time management if they've got a full-time job and then they're training up for a new job. Just make sure that you are completely okay with the costs and consequences associated with your goal. If everything's okay, everything's completely aligned, you have those things in place, amazing. Just consider them to start with, and if there are any teething problems, just get those resolved first if this is definitely something that you know you want for yourself. Now, the next thing to consider really is, do you have all the resources that you need in place? Do you have everything that you possibly need for this goal to be successful? If you have everything in place already, there's nothing that's going to necessarily get in the way because you already have those things in place to move yourself forward. So the first thing to really consider, one of the first things is, as you've thought about your goal, I want you to make a list of all of the resources that you need. It might be monetary resources. It might even just be your belief system. It might be your mindset and your motivation. There can be internal resources that we need to think about, as well as the external obvious resources when you think of the word resources. So for example, I want to be healthier as your goal. Some key resources would be, well, I want a fridge full of healthy food then. I might need to invest in an exercise program or fitness program at the gym. If you are looking at the fridge and all you have in there are fast foods and last night's takeaway, are you going to be successful with this goal? This is the stumbling block that a lot of us hit when we decide we're going to start eating better on a Friday night and we're thinking, well, I'm going to have a takeaway this weekend and then I'll start on Monday. Make sure that everything around you aligns with the goal that you've set for yourself and nothing's going to get in the way. So all the resources around you that are supporting this goal are actually supporting your goal, and you're not hitting those roadblocks where you're thinking, oh yeah, but there's that chocolate bar in the cupboard that I'd love to eat, or whatever it might be. I'm not one to talk about dieting and things like that, so I won't get into the nitty-gritty of that too much, but you get what I'm trying to say. Just make sure that all the resources that you need, whether it's monetary, whether it's physical resources, internal resources for yourself, time management maybe, any kind of resource is aligned with your goal. It's in place right at the get-go, so you're not going to hit any of those roadblocks. If you've thought about this and you're thinking, well, I don't have this yet, that's okay. Don't panic. Don't just stop your goal completely. Make that your first goal. So kind of make a mini goal to start with first to get that resource in place. And then once you've kind of hit that mini goal and you've got all those resources, go back to the main goal and start again. Don't let a lack of a resource completely stop you in your tracks from going for this goal. It's still achievable. Just set yourself that mini goal first to get your resources in place and then get going with the bigger goal. Now, one thing I really want you to think about, and I'm going to go into this a little bit more deeply because it is quite a deeper subject, I suppose. When we set goals or intentions, or we have this decision that, okay, I really want to make this change in my life, we have to think about what that change means to us. Sometimes we'll set goals for ourselves, but they don't quite align with who we are as a person or our desires and wants in life. Maybe you're a certain type of person and going out meeting people in bars, for example, just isn't your thing. Make sure that the goal that you're setting for yourself is aligned with who you are and it supports who you are as a person, what your values are, what your intentions are in life. Now, the reason I say this is because a lot of people will set a goal for themselves, or they'll have this new intention, and a lot of the time it's with careers as well. And they decide, okay, I'm going to go for this and I'm going to work towards achieving it. And then they achieve it and they become so resentful. And a lot of the time, the reason behind this is the goal that you'd set for yourself wasn't actually a goal that you'd set for yourself. It was a goal that someone else had set for you. It was encouraged by someone else. It was a desire of someone else for something that they wanted for you. It wasn't really what you wanted. You went out and achieved it anyway, but now you hate it because it doesn't align with where you want to be in life or who you are and what you value. So the reason I focus on this so much is because any intention we set for ourselves, any desired change in our life has to come from within. It has to come from our wants, not someone else's wants. And that's really important because the last thing you want is to have achieved a goal and then still not be happy. If you're setting yourself a new goal or a new intention or that desired change in your life, it has to be because you want to. It's supposed to improve your life the way you want it to. Another example would be that you go out and go on all of these dates because you've got pressure from your family saying, well, you're at this certain age now, you should be settled down, you should be meeting someone, isn't time ticking a little bit? You've got to think about kids and all that kind of stuff. And in your head, you're thinking, oh, maybe they're right, maybe I do. So you go on all of these dates and you start meeting people, you end up with the wrong person. And the reason being is because you're pushing yourself towards a goal that you probably didn't even want. Maybe you don't actually want to meet someone right now. Maybe you're completely content with being on your own. But because everyone else is telling you that you're of that age now where it's important that you start settling down and meeting someone, you're pushing yourself towards a goal that inevitably makes everyone else happy but you. So just make sure that any goal that you set for yourself is aligned with you. What you want in life, not what anyone else wants. It doesn't matter. This is your life. What do you want? Make sure that any goal you set is because you want it to happen, not because someone else does. And finally, I'm going to leave you with this one because this is quite interesting. So I'm going to ask you a question now, and I want you to answer it really honestly. So as you're thinking about your goal, and you should have that goal in your mind right now. If you don't have a goal yet, that's fine. Come back to this episode when you have that goal because this is going to be really useful to make sure that you have everything in place to make that goal successful. But if you do have that goal in mind and you can think about it, you can visualize it, great. But I'm going to ask you a question now. If you could have it right now, as in, if you could have that goal, that outcome right now, and I just handed it to you, would you take it? The reason I ask that question is because I want you to really think about the answer that you've given. If you're the kind of person who instantly said, obviously, I'd have it now, can't think of anything better, that's all I've wanted for ages, amazing. Because that is a goal that's suited to you. It aligns with your values, you have everything in place, you know it's what you want, you believe you can get it, and yeah, you're raring to go, you're excited for the outcome. So you're like, yeah, of course I'd have it now. If you're the kind of person who's sitting there now thinking, and instantly in your head you were going, oh, I don't know if I could have it now. Why is that the case? Don't get me wrong, it's absolutely fine if you answered that way, and I'm really hoping that you see that because it's giving you a lot to think about. So with this goal that you've set, this desired change, whatever it is you want in your life right now, why don't you want it right now? Or why do you feel that you can't have it right now? What reasons is your brain giving you to telling you why you can't have it? Now really listen to that voice. Is it just an inner critic? Do you need to focus on your belief, maybe in yourself more? Maybe you need to shift some limiting beliefs. That's even better. Make sure you go back to a previous episode to focus on shifting those limiting beliefs. It might be that there's other people you need to think about. I couldn't possibly do that right now because my children are too young. That's okay. That's a consequence of the goal that you need to think about. Is there something else that can be put in place instead? Can you shift your goal in a way that means, okay, but if this happened, I'd take it now? Amazing. How can you shift your goal to achieve that then instead? So I'm kind of playing devil's advocate a little bit with you in asking you that question. If you're the kind of person that said, yes, amazing, I'd have it right now, that's the right goal for you. If you're hesitant and you're coming up with reasons as to why you can't have it now, that's also okay, but listen to that inner voice because it's telling you a lot in that moment. So I suppose, just to summarise really, I mean, I've talked to you quite a lot, lots and lots of different tips there. Now, the key take-home messages I want you to think about in relation to this is, make sure your goal is forward thinking. What do you want? Don't focus on what you don't want. You don't want to send your brain into that whirlpool of just lack of motivation and drive. Think about what you do want. Make sure your brain is focusing on the subject of what you do want. Remember, it can't process a negative, so don't formulate your goal with the wording, I don't want. Avoid that. Focus on what you do want. Move yourself forward into a more focused and willing mindset. Then think about your belief. Do you truly believe that you can achieve it? Also, is it aligned with who you are as a person? Is this a goal that you're setting for yourself, or is someone else setting it for you? Or do you feel that this is something that you should be doing rather than what you want? And if that's the case, where are your values and how does this goal not quite align? Can you shift it in a way that it could? Make sure you have key resources in place, and the quicker you have those resources in place, the less likely you are to hit stumbling blocks along the way. What are the costs and any consequences associated with this goal? Because you need to make sure that they're dealt with first if you really want to focus on achieving this goal. And ultimately, can you visualize yourself just having that end result? Can you see yourself in that end result? How does it feel to be there? And lastly, would you take it now if you could? If you can, great. If not, what is that telling you? Think about something else that you need to put in place first. Or maybe shift your goal entirely, who knows? It tells you a lot. Now, I would love to hear the goals that you've set for yourself. What do you want to change in your life? What goal or intention are you setting for yourself? Tell me, I'd love to hear it. Also, if you're a little bit stuck and you're a little bit unsure, or you've been trying to achieve something for ages and it's not quite working, have a chat with me. We'll be able to talk you through it and make sure that all of this goal setting is in place for you to make sure it's successful. If you liked this episode, be sure to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!